Hey, hey, hey. To have an out-of-this-world story from our space. It's not always about the journey, but about the destination. And sometimes, we just want to be able to see our cheaters really beg for it. Today on our space, we come out on the other side very much alive. The silver lining after the infidelity. I've been lurking on Reddit for a long time. Always wanted to share my story of my journey through infidelity. English is my second language, so sorry in advance for any mistake. Characters. Me, 42 female. My ex-husband, Eric, 43 male. The mistress, 33 female. My husband, Dan, 50. This story started in 2010, 12 years ago when I was 30. Me and my husband were high school sweethearts. We have never been separated. I always thought we would be one of those couples who stayed together forever since their childhood. But I was really wrong. At that time, I was pregnant with my daughter Ava. I discovered that my husband was cheating on me with one of his co-workers, the mistress. I confronted him about it, and he broke down and said sorry. He went from asking for forgiveness to blaming me for the affair because I didn't pay attention to him. My emotions were all over the place. I broke down when he told me he loved that co-worker. She was an intern at the time. She is way younger than I am. I tried to save my marriage, but my husband was adamant to leave me. My dad cheated on my mom when I was younger. I still feel crushed because of that. That's why I didn't want my daughter to suffer the same fate. I also didn't have a job back then. I begged him to stay and work it out. I suggested therapy, but he refused. So, we got divorced after a year. He moved in with the mistress. During our divorce, I had an early labor and gave birth to my daughter. He didn't even come to the hospital. Because said he was 50-50. But for the first few months, my daughter would stay with me and he would come to visit. I moved in with my mom and stepdad. They were more than welcoming. Whenever my husband would come, he would bring his mistress with him too. Seeing them together really itches my heart. It didn't help when he would deliberately adjust his collar to show off his hickey. The only thing that prevented me from spiraling down into heavy depression was my mom. I hated myself because I looked really exhausted. I thought I looked ugly. Every time I saw my husband with the mistress, I'd burn in jealousy. I could sometimes see the disgust on his face as if he's glad to drop a hag like me. For the first 2 years that had been like this, I lost a lot of weight. I looked pale. After 2 years of sulking and feeling bad for myself, I started to change my ways of life. I made a promise that I would work on myself and give my daughter the best life she needs. So I started therapy, and I changed my eating habits. I know in this but is an overrated advice, hit the gem, but this overrated advice saved me. I started working out. Somehow I felt less anxious. I started to look healthier than before. I decided to get a job. My life has started in a different direction. I was still staying with my parents to afford a small house for me and my daughter. When my daughter was 4, in 2014, I moved out. It was smaller but enough for the two of us. During that time, my ex has started to notice me. One day when he came to pick up my daughter, he told me, "Look good." It is something he never said to me before. I almost broke my composure at that time, but I was still hurt because he made me go through something really painful for his own selfishness. So I decided that I wanted to play with his mind for a while. The next time he came to pick up his daughter, I smiled. I was cordial and invited him in so that he could take some of my daughter's stuff. He was also weirded by the smile. I did that every time we would run into each other. He was pretty confused by it. So he finally asked me why I was smiling. I sat him down and said, "Look, as much as I hate seeing you on a daily basis, even though we are divorced, but you are still the father of my daughter. My daughter is already growing up in a broken home where mommy and daddy don't live together, where she has to switch homes every weekend, and I don't want her to grow up in an environment where her mom and dad cannot be cordial. I have the father who cheated on my mom and tried to alienate me from her. It nearly destroyed me. I don't want that for her. So, that's why I want to be nice to you. Maybe someday we will reach the point where we will be cordial and a very cooperative co-parents despite our differences." He went speechless. I can see the colors flying off his face. From that day, I was nice to him. He would always give an awkward smile. Sometimes I would mess with him by wearing a dress that is his favorite color. Sometimes I would make his favorite cookies or food, and he would ask me what that smell was. I liked seeing him weak in front of me. It gave me the power at that time. This went on for a few months. When it was Christmas that year, I invited him to dinner because my daughter wanted to spend it with both her parents. Needless to say, he brought his girlfriend with him. I could see that she holds anger against me. I was not rude to her, but she was really hostile to me for the entire evening. She would get jealous every time me and my ex-husband would try to have a conversation. I was not trying to be closer to him. I kept my distance. At the end of the evening, I gave them both a gift. I gave my husband a watch that he always wanted. That was the first time I saw him smile at me genuinely. I did give his girlfriend a gift too, which was a pair of earrings. She was not happy. She asked him if they could leave sooner. The next day, my ex called me yelling that I was trying to manipulate him back to my life and that I'm ruining his relationship. I asked what he meant by that. He told me that giving him an expensive watch in front of his girlfriend was rude. I'm trying to ruin his life. I actually laughed at his audacity. I told him that I bought a similar watch for my stepfather as well, and that watch I got from my friend's show. He is now going to accuse me of wanting to sleep with my stepfather too? I called him pathetic and delusional to think that I will ever want to steal someone else's man. Maybe his girlfriend has that quality, but I am above that. I hung up my phone saying that his relationship problems are not my problem, and he should just solve it on his own instead of blaming other people for it. The phone call made me realize I was not above the mistress. All this teasing and messing with him was very weird of me trying to get him back. I was really obsessed with this idea of having control over him that I forgot that it is creating a very bad environment. That weekend, he didn't come to take my daughter with him. He wanted to spend more time with his girlfriend and not babysit her daughter. It did break my heart to see my daughter not meeting her father too often. A part of it feels at my fault. I tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't change his mind. So it was just me and my daughter again. I focus all my energy on my daughter and my work. I also started a small side business where I make cakes and sweets for different occasions. His visits were less, so I wasn't much bothered by it. My family, along with my daughter and I, went on vacation. Even if I was alone, having my daughter by my side was worth it. Our arrangement was fine for 3 years. I haven't dated much, just 2 ons. Nothing serious. I never brought any dates home. I was okay with the fact that I'm a single mom and people usually don't want to date a single mom. This is until I met Dan, 45 male, my now husband. I met him at his daughter's Jen's 17th birthday, where he hired me to make a cake for his daughter. We instantly clicked. We started dating shortly after. By the end of 2017, Dan was also divorced because his wife cheated on him and left him for another guy. My daughter also liked him a lot. He would take her fishing with him when we started to hang out as a family. His daughter was very protective of him. I can understand because she saw him suffer through divorce and infidelity. Even though she was a little hostile towards me at the beginning, she liked my daughter. Jen always wanted a little sister. Though it took some time, Jen opened up to me and accepted me. I couldn't be more happy. My life was a mess a few years ago, and now everything seems to be where it was. The person who did not take my relationship well was my ex-husband. When he learned about Dan, he was sort of possessive about his daughter. He kept saying how he doesn't want a strange man around Ava. It could be dangerous. He doesn't trust him. I called him out as a hypocrite because he didn't even think twice while he was having his mistress around my daughter. He didn't even ask for my permission. He tried to argue, but I shut it down. He has no say in who I should date or not. He didn't even ask for my permission when he was screwing his mistress while I was pregnant with Ava. So why is he acting like he owns meat? He also tried to lie to my daughter about me and Dan. That only backfired because for the last 3 years, he has been absent for most of her life. Believe it or not, kids do pick on things. I argued with him about alienating my daughter and spreading false rumors about me. He eventually stopped when his plan was only biting him in the butt. As the days went by, my daughter started to ask if she could spend the weekend here with us. By then, Jen went to college. The house was empty. I asked her why. She told me her dad and mistress are always fighting and the mistress would be mean to her. I hated putting my daughter in this position. I did talk to my ex about this and he told me to stay the hell away from his business, and if my daughter wants to stay with me, she is more than welcome to do so. Ava was devastated to hear her dad didn't want her, but Dan was my hero. He spent the entire weekend with her trying to cheer her up. He was so natural with my daughter that it is hard to believe she is not his biological daughter. He proposed to me during the pandemic. I never thought I would get married again. His daughter was one of my bridesmaids and my daughter was the flower girl. We decided to have a small ceremony. 2 weeks before the wedding, my ex asked me if he could at least meet me. I thought he would talk about my daughter, but as soon as I sat down, he started sobbing and said how unhappy he is, how much he missed me and my daughter. He asked me to give him another chance. At that moment, I felt like it was me several years ago when I begged him to stay. Back then, if he begged me, I would have taken him back. But now I don't have any feelings. I told him that I was sorry, but I have moved on, and he should too, and I left. Later, I learned that his mistress was pregnant when he met me. It just sickens me that he is treating that woman the way he used to treat me. But it's not my problem. In 2021, I became pregnant. It was really unexpected because we didn't plan it. I was not sure if I could get pregnant given my age. My ex again called me to reconsider our relationship. I was mad and yelled at him to never call me again. I gave birth to my son. I'm still really exhausted, but I have the support of my husband and 2 daughters. My ex is still with his mistress, but whenever I see him, he looks miserable. I never ask him anything, nor do I want to know. So that's it. I guess the thing I want to say to you guys is that just because you got cheated on doesn't mean your life is over. You can still appreciate what life gives you. Always focus on and love yourself first. You can still rise from the ashes of the broken marriage or relationship that was burned by the fire of infidelity. Let's see what the community thinks of this story. Swansong Blue says, "Brilliant follow-up, OP. Well done on returning with your story. It will give much-needed hope to the many betrayed on this sub. Good luck." DOP replies, "Thanks. I have read some gut-wrenching stories on this sub, but after what I lived through, every betrayed spouse deserves the silver lining, and that will only come if we work on ourselves. I did just that. I don't want to feel sorry for myself for the rest of my life. I enjoyed both my single life and married life. I am satisfied with my life." Significant Jello 35 chimes in, "One of the best stories I have read the past few weeks. Congratulations to your new baby, marriage, and family. I'm sure it will inspire other readers." DOP replies, "Well, my baby is 1 year old. I wasn't planning on having him because I was 40, but I'm glad I did because Dan's ex-wife cheated on him and tried to pass a fair partner son as his own. It was rough for him to know that the kid he loved so much wasn't even his. I'm glad I was able to fill that void." I Passed 6789 says, "First of all, congratulations on your baby. Secondly, you have no idea how proud I am of you. I see a lot of people going back to their cheating spouses and then live miserably. But you are a star. You are a fighter. Your story really inspired me. Good luck in the future." Wow, OP. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's so nice to see you where you are and really content in life. I'm so glad you and Dan were able to find each other. I think you're totally right about the manipulation. Your ex literally is so unhappy with himself that he has to manipulate women and constantly try to have his ego stroked. You love the fact that you gave him a watch. Yeah, maybe your intentions weren't as pure back then, but I'm glad you were able to step out of yourself and realize that. I feel like that was just a step forward in your healing journey. You went full circle and came out alive and better than ever, OP. We're proud of you. What sort of tactics did you use in trying to make your ex jealous? Perhaps you tried to get them back. How did that make you feel? What did you learn? Share your stories with us below. Thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. We'd hate for you to miss out. If you want to listen to more stories from me, check out our lounge where I feature a larger variety of non-cheating related stories. See you there.